not, I can't hear them. It's coming out of my computer speaker instead.
Are you able to hear me?
And I'm getting that corrected right now.
Okay, take your time.
That just fixed it. All right. All right, I'm ready to go if everybody else is.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. I will call the meeting to order at 10 o'clock. Because this is a second attempt, people that are here constitutes a quorum. Also, do I need to upload into the chat? Let me go ahead and do that anyways. I'm going to upload the documents that we will be using today. All right. Sorry, everyone, but I want to make sure everybody has these. Okay, if you look in the chat, you'll see a PDF, and that's the documents that Michelle is going to be having on the screen today, but you can also have a copy of it. In there, you will see the both notices for the meetings. We're required to show those to you. And at this point in time, Michelle, did you want to make any opening comments?
Sure. We mostly wanted to, first place, remind you that this is being recorded. So along with any comments and things like that, we are going to post this publicly. So if you do make comments, including in the chat, please don't disclose any personal information. You may want to leave your cameras off to protect your privacy. We also have dedicated time for questions and discussion at the end. So please save your comments until then. If you have something that really can't wait, just go ahead and put it in the chat. That is being monitored, and we'll go ahead and take care of that. The first thing that I wanted to do was to thank our volunteers this year. We had volunteers that worked on the asset reserve study, landscaping committee, buoy annexation. They spent a lot of time, trying to make this a great neighborhood or keep up the great neighborhood that this is. And I wanted to thank all of them very much. We spent a lot of time on on the asset reserve study. That's something that's going to continue to kind of haunt us for probably the next couple of years. But at the moment, we have it taken care of. There was potential for our HOA dues being drastically increased just to take care of a requirement that was a little bit bogus for us, but we have that taken care of at the moment, so we won't need to do that. And that committee just did an amazing job attending meetings and things like that. So we want to thank all of those. And that's mainly, kind of what we've been doing this year.
Okay. If you'd like to scroll down to the minutes.
Hold on a second, I'll put the minutes.
Once she has the minutes up, we'll give everybody a minute or so to review them, look for any spelling mistakes, grammar mistakes, or if you remember it differently, if you were at the meeting, please let me know.
Oh, sorry, Jean, so that document is not the minutes.
Yep, I just saw that. Let me find it. I scanned 2 documents today and I just grabbed the wrong one.
Okay.
Yeah, I just grabbed the wrong one.
Put it back in the chat. I can go ahead and,
Yep, I'll do it right now. Oh, that's why. Okay. Forget that one. They've changed the order on me. I will upload the correct one right now. There we go. There we go. That's the correct one. The other one, please disregard.
right, hang on 1 second.
So the 240 on the last numbers is the correct document.
There we go. This is the agenda. This is the
Meeting notices.
Right.
Those are the meeting notices.
right. Notices, and then this was from last year. Okay, so
Correct.
these are the from last year.
That is correct.
Good to me.
We'll give everybody about another 30 seconds to look at them, just in case. All right, if there's no changes, because I get a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, can I get a second, please?
Most of you are on mute. You can unmute yourselves to second. Florence, you're unmuted. You can second it.
A second.
Thank you, Florence. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor of accepting the minutes as presented, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Please say aye. Okay, the minutes are accepted. If you can scroll down to the financials, Michelle. This is your balance sheet and income statement. For those of you that have come to meetings in the past, you'll know that these are now looking different. It used to just be a spreadsheet that we used, but we have since gone to a in the cloud management software, and we will be moving forward using accounting reports such as a balance sheet and an income statement to show to your board and show your community where you stand. You guys are in good shape. As Michelle had mentioned, we do have to meet the requirements of the reserve study, and I think Michelle is working on that for assessments purposes. But financially, you guys are in good shape for now. If you want to look at the balance sheet or income statement, anybody have any questions, please let me know. All right, and the next thing is your HOA assessments, your board has decided will be increased by $15 in 2023. And some of that will go to help cover the cost of the reserve study. I don't know if you guys know what a reserve study is, but briefly, it's a report that says, here's all the assets that the community holds, and here's how long we think they will last, and here's what we think it will cost to replace or repair them when the time comes. That's called a reserve study. Because of what happened in Miami, Maryland has now passed a law that says every HOA must have a reserve study done every 5 years, and the board must raise assessments to meet the requirements if they're not putting enough money away in the reserve account every year. That goes to the Miami building that needed repairs and they didn't have enough money to make them, so they didn't make them. But I don't know if Michelle would like to discuss this, because I think she's done some research on, can Patuxent Riding get out of the reserve study because you guys own very little? Well, basically the answer to that is no. What we do hope is that in 5 years, when it's due again, that we won't have to spend as much money because you guys do own very little. What we're hoping is that the same contractor that did it this year will do it 5 years from now, and it won't take as much work to get the reserve study done. So that's what the reserve study is about, and that's what partly your increase in assessments is going to cover. Michelle, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to bring up about that.
Yeah, so we're not trying to get out of the reserve study. I get it. It's a good law. It protects a lot of people. What we were trying to get an exemption for is that the way the law is written is that we would have to have the entire replacement cost for those concrete monuments out front put aside within 3 years, and we're into year 2 of that. What we felt is that it's unreasonable to have something like $50,000 sitting in asset reserve until the monuments crumble, because the life expectancy on poured concrete is 80 to 100 years. So we didn't think that it was reasonable to put that money up front within 3 years. Plus, it would just raise our HOA fees so much. And it's kind of crazy to have the money just sitting there. So our proposal for that was to be able to have some other option, right? We're okay with, I get that we have to be able to replace the vinyl fences and things like that, but to either have that long term, like can we put this money away over 50 years instead of 3, or can we get insurance on it that would be like like if it's no longer useful, right? So you can get insurance that says when this no longer works as it's supposed to, your insurance will cover it. So if the monument crumbles on its own, can we get insurance that would say that would cover the replacement cost, and that way we wouldn't have to leave all that money in reserve. So that was what we were the exemption that we were trying to get. What we wound up with was our engineering company added an email as an addendum saying that they don't believe that the replacement cost of the monument should be included as part of this asset reserve study. So that's what we have. At the moment, that's working for us. It might not always work for us. So we're still working pretty hard to be able to get exemptions for things like where it's just cosmetic, right? Where we're not worried about a roof falling in on someone, or we're not leaving, our residents without air conditioning and heat. This is just cosmetic. So we want to get some kind of an exemption to that. So that's what we're still working toward.
Okay. That's all I had. The next part of the meeting is the discussion of current issues in the community, and I think Michelle, you put those on the agenda. So I don't know if you wanted to speak to them.
Yeah, sure thing. So just to go to the agenda, we're going to do discussion of our current issues, go over the results from the research from the Bowie Annexation Committee, and then we'll have an open forum and adjourn. One of the first things, we need volunteers. We have a landscaping committee. We would like to add more people to that. We need people that would evaluate and get quotes for lighting options. One of our lights is not working. Research replacement plans, kind of do project planning for the light replacement, including that some electrical work would need to be done. We need them to evaluate and schedule a vendor to power wash those entrance monuments. So we don't need you to actually do landscaping, but if you want to join that committee and help kind of find those vendors, that would be great. We also need volunteers to organize the neighborhood picnic, holiday decoration contest, national night out, any other social events that we want to have. We need people to organize those. So not just to, volunteer for cleanup after, things like that. We need organizers for those. We do have some money set aside for those. If you're interested in that, you can send me an email. We actually have a new email address for the board that I will send out to everybody. I don't want to do contact information on here because it's kind of a public recording. But you all certainly have my email address. You can send me your name if you're interested in volunteering for any of those things. Now, current issues. So I get a lot of calls and emails and texts during the course of the year, multiple times a week, about things that we're concerned about in the neighborhood. And that includes noise, and that noise is mostly things like contractors, landscapers running their mowers really early, like before 7 in the morning. We had a lot of calls about people not cleaning up after their pets, occasionally about property maintenance. So those are the kind of the things that we want to discuss. But one of the main things that I have learned over, the kind of last year and a half is that our HOA board is actually very limited. There are very few problems that we can actually solve as a board when it comes to these kind of things. But there are a lot of problems that we can really turn into a complete disaster if we handle them wrong, if we handle them incorrectly. So I want to go over the ways that we can try to solve some of these problems together and what the board can and can't do and what your options are kind of as our neighbors. So the first is, for most of these things, talk to your neighbors, do it in a way that's not confrontational. What I've found is that most of the time when something happens, it's either like a really temporary solution or something that's really unavoidable. We have storms coming in, so people's lawn companies are showing up at crazy hours. That only happens once in a while. It's temporary. It's annoying, but it's temporary. When I've communicated with my neighbors and said, hey, did you know your dog was out barking all night? Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't home. The kids were there. I'll make sure that they don't do it again. So most of our neighbors are wonderful about really not trying to, make bad things happen in the neighborhood or not trying to be annoying. Most of our neighbors really do want this to stay the great neighborhood that it is. So talking to them can make such a big difference. The flip side of that is true, too. If there's something going on at your house that your neighbors maybe need to know, like if you have construction people showing up at 7 in the morning to beat a storm, let your neighbors know. They'll appreciate it. For the most part, they'll say, yeah, I get it. I'll get up a little bit early tomorrow. It's not that big a deal. So talking to your neighbors, understanding what's going on, by far, is the best way to handle any situation that comes up with your neighbors, okay? As long as you can do it in a way that's safe and not confrontational. Most of these situations are very temporary, and they're not intentional, right? There's a big difference between a neighbor that's blasting their music every night at 3 o'clock in the morning, which we generally don't have, and somebody whose lawn company shows up at, 6:30 in the morning. Big difference between those things. So keep that in mind. We do have neighbors. There is going to be noise. There's going to be, unfortunately, dog poop. There's going to be things that happen that we're not thrilled with. But you don't want to destroy a neighbor relationship if it's something that is kind of temporary and maybe not that big a deal, okay? Now, having said that, and I did, by the way, look up the dog poop problem because that's been a problem for the whole time we've lived here. And one of the things that's suggested is offer that person a bag, right? If you say, hey, do you need a plastic bag to keep up after your dog, to pick up after your dog, a lot of times that will really kind of solve the problem. So the next thing is, if that's not working for you, if you think that your neighbor is doing something that's intentional, contact Chambers Management. They will send a letter to that neighbor, but please make sure you have the facts, right? You want to make sure that if it's actually your neighbor that's blasting music or setting off fireworks or whatever it is, make sure you really do know who that is, and that there's not another solution. The third thing is that you can contact the county if you have proof. Keep in mind that by the time you get to option 2 and 3, we're kind of escalating things at that point. Make sure it's something that is fixable by taking those actions. If it's not, you might want to rethink it. If we are happy to work with anybody to try to figure out a solution to a problem. But like I said, just keep in mind that it is shocking how little the board can actually do to fix some of these problems. But we are absolutely willing to try to work with people however we can. But just, here are your options. You don't have to call me, if something's going on. You can absolutely contact Chambers. They will deal with it. We'll send that contact information back out. And you can contact the county, but like I said, at that point, you've kind of escalated things to make sure you're doing it for a good reason. I would also recommend there's this TV show that was out. It's called Fear Thy Neighbor, where and it actually shows real cases of things that started out being little neighbor disputes and escalated horribly. I would recommend that anybody that's trying to figure out a way to solve things, watch that show first. Any episode would be fine. Just shows how easily things can escalate and get out of hand, okay? Next. Results of the Bowie Annexation Committee research. The reason we're looking into this now, we actually, someone looked into it, I think it was back around 2005 or 2006, and we did not have contiguous land and we could not be annexed. So we're looking into this now because we do have contiguous land, so it is possible. And it's really because of the concerns that I've heard from our neighbors. The first is car break-ins, property crimes, vandalism. We get so many car break-ins every October, November, December, right? So we're coming up on break-in season, and even where people are doing all the right things, right? Even where people are locking their doors and taking in their packages and parking up in their driveway and things like that, we're still getting neighbors that are getting their car windows smashed. So that's one of the things that's been like a pretty big issue. Another issue is that our HOA really has no means to take action if a property is not kept up. And when I say that, I mean we can certainly send a letter and things like that. And for the most part, when something's not kept up, it really is something like very temporary and kind of an isolated incident. But if we have an issue where somebody really is just kind of letting the place go to trash, the HOA is really kind of restricted and very limited in what real action we can take. We can send letters. It would be really difficult to force someone to do something more than that. The other complaints, like the ones that we talked about, speeding, dog poop, trash not being packed up, snow removal, early morning noises, things like that. Those are things that the city of Bowie has things in place. They have ordinances in place that can help us with those kind of things. We have a lack of representation in the county for issues like the asset reserve study. We are very much alone in this. When I talk to PG County every fourth Wednesday of the month, when I get on that call, we are very alone. And it's basically me fighting with our representatives about how we should be given this exception. The city of Bowie Planning and Zoning, it impacts our neighborhood, but we have no vote. We don't have a lot of clout with the county. And the things that happen in the city of Bowie, where they can go ahead and, if they wanted to, they could go ahead and put like high density, housing on Racetrack Road or something. We don't have a vote in that. Now, there's a cost. There will be additional taxes if we get annexed into the city of Bowie. That amount depends on your taxed assessed value of your home. This is not the resale value. It's not the appraised value. I actually meant to include a link in here. I will include it when I upload this and Jean posts it. But to find out the exact tax assessed value of your home, you should have just gotten a letter just recently, actually from PG County with our tax assessments. I think they came out a few weeks ago to everybody from the county. But it includes the size of your property, the size of your living space, and that's it, right? So if you add granite counters, things like that, none of that increases your tax assessed value. Our plan with this is to discuss this today, obviously, but then also we're going to schedule at least 2 other meetings for the homeowners. These will be evenings via Zoom with city officials before calling for a vote. The city officials are going to be the ones that address the specifics of taxes, police coverage, services, things like that. So if you have questions, arguments, debates, things like that, the best time to bring that up really would be in the meetings with them, since they can answer your questions. Okay. Now, we're going to go over, here's just the results of the annexation committee research. Some of the main points to answer, right, the concerns, right, the reasons that we're doing this. City of Bowie Police Department, this would be additional sworn officers. So it doesn't take away our PG officers, it just adds more officers on top of that. PG County Police would still be responsible for most of the things they're responsible for now. City of Bowie would take on some additional things, like they have dedicated officers for property crimes and for patrolling the neighborhoods and things like that. The next thing is code enforcement. Code enforcement, we would have additional code enforcement. I believe it's 5 officers, 5 full-time officers, code enforcement officers for just regular single-family homes, and then they have 2 more that are dedicated just to rental properties. Code enforcement is absolutely one of those double-edged swords, right? If right now you could probably build a casino in your backyard without permits, and I'm not sure anybody would even know coming from the county. If we join the city of Bowie, that's not going to happen. They absolutely have code enforcement people that will drive around and they will cite you if you're doing something that's against their code enforcement or the ordinances. The good of that is that if someone leaves their property trashy, if they're doing something that's going to decrease our property values, code enforcement is a lot more likely to catch it from the city of Bowie than they would be from the county. The city of Bowie at that point, they're the bad guy, right? You don't have to call on your neighbor. You don't have to worry about the place getting trashed. You don't have to worry about your neighbor getting even. This is all in code enforcement. The bad of that is they are going to cite you, if something's going on, right? So if you're doing something that obstructs the street, right? I had a neighbor when we lived in Old Bowie. They lived on the corner, and their bushes were overgrown, so you couldn't make a left turn coming off of Madonna Lane. So they were cited for that. They came out and they said, they gave them a warning. The neighbor cut the bushes down, and it was no big deal, and they moved on. So it seemed a little bit nitpicky at the time, but they do have, it's a 2-page list of rules that we're going to all have to follow. It includes, can't leave your trash cans out the next day and things like that. I will actually post that list also. I'll give that all to Gene, and he can put it up on the website. Now, the other thing is we'll be able to vote in the City of Bowie elections. That'll be a nice thing to be able to do, and have representation on their committees. So where, we have the racetrack, or I know that there's some rezoning being done for that property down near Sacred Heart, which seems pretty far away until you try to drive up Racetrack Road at 3:30 in the afternoon. They also have services for homeowners, seniors, families. The nice thing with that for the City of Bowie is that they are not restricted by neighborhood. PG County also has some great services. They are virtually all restricted to being applied for within certain neighborhoods. We're not in those neighborhoods. Okay? Here's a list of the summary of services. I'm going to put this into a PDF, and Jean will post it so that you all will be able to click on these links. But you can see that there's quite a bit that we would get from joining the City of Bowie, right? There are neighborhood grants. There's a camera rebate. There's leaf collection, trash collection 2 times a week, where they actually pick up everything, no matter what you put out. So there's a lot of great services, and I'll give you guys a minute to just kind of be able to read these services, including free online job training. That online job training is fantastic. It has thousands of classes that our young people or older people trying to get back into the workforce can take for free. All of these links are going to be clickable in the PDF that Jean posts, and then you will be able to read more about that for each of these. So I'll leave this up for just a minute. Meantime, here are the action items. I'll put this list back up while we have our Q&A session. The action items. We're going to post a recording of this meeting so the homeowners can view it at your convenience. The reason we're having this meeting now was it's a formality, right? We did not expect for people to have to attend since we're not voting, and really all we're doing is more of kind of a one-way, here's the information. You'll be able to look at this recording at your convenience. I'm going to post a PDF of this presentation, and it will have the links that you can click on. I'll also send a follow-up email with the contact information for Chambers and the Bowie Annexation Committee findings. So you will have all that information in an email. If you are not getting emails from me or from Patuxent Riding at gmail.com, please let me know. But you should all be able to get emails. We'll also put as much as we can on Facebook. Again, that's a public forum. We want to be a little bit careful of what we post. We'll put all the contact information for the meetings on the website and send it out in an email. We are scheduling Zoom meetings with the City of Bowie officials so they can answer questions and address concerns. Additionally, we will also be inviting everyone, now that we have expanded Zoom capabilities, I'm inviting everyone to the board meetings. So the board meetings are once a month. It's the first Thursday of every month at 7 p.m. We're getting those rescheduled starting in October. So we will definitely be able to invite homeowners to come to those meetings. I want to have meetings more often, so we're not only dependent on just that, one big meeting at the end of the year. I think I'd rather have that as a social event, and let's get the information out via Zoom and things like that. So So the question of list of cons for the annexation. So we're not really doing pros and cons, right? So I just wanted to, we share the members of the Bowie Annexation Research Committee a follow-up email, please. I will ask the members of the Annexation Research Committee if they want their information shared. I think we've shared it before and they don't have a problem with it. We didn't do a list of pros and cons, right? Because we just wanted to show why. And, you know, here's what you get for your money, right? Pros and cons, if you hate taxes, that's the cons. If you don't care, right, if you want the services. So instead of doing pros and cons, what we're doing is, like I said, I just want to do a list of services, a list of the facts that they discovered, and then save the discussion of kind of good and bad for when we have the City of Bowie officials on the, you know, on the call. So I hope that answers your question. Now, we're going to do, please remember the meetings will be recorded and it'll be posted, so please be careful what you say. But if you would like, you can, and I'll leave this posted, so, you know, if we have questions. So if you have questions, feel free to take yourself off of mute. Or raise your hand or chat. Yes, we can. Yeah, I would love to have a county representative. Certainly try that. I was thinking about that this morning, actually. Yes, we can do that. We can ask them. I don't know if they'll show up or not. In the meantime, if anybody does want to see kind of what the county does for us, there's a meeting the fourth Wednesday in the afternoon. It's like 3 in the afternoon, the fourth Wednesday of every month, where I get on the call and talk to the county, and this includes, it's called the Cooperative Housing something or other commission. I can send that link out also, but that's the fourth Wednesday of every month where we get to address with the county our concerns as an HOA. Those are awfully quiet. Right. I think we answered everything that was in the chat. Yeah, and if anybody knows a county representative, don't forget Geraldine's retiring, or at least not running again. Todd's running again. Doug is not in office. If anybody, you know, knows a county representative that would like to, you know, hop on a meeting and chat with us, I am more than happy to take those names, and I'll be happy to contact them. Will this affect our HOA cost? Will what affect it? So, no, nothing with City of Bowie will affect our HOA cost. However, joining the City of Bowie is a tax increase on property taxes. It's not an increase, it's an additional. Yeah, so statistics on crime. The outcome of the cameras in front of our neighborhood is that it's fortunately done nothing for us. We don't have statistics on crime because, for some reason, all of the car break-ins that we had never made it onto this spreadsheet that we get back from the county, right? So it says something like there were no break-ins and like maybe one kind of a, I don't know what you call them, like a domestic situation and a couple things like that. So the statistics that we have on crime are not accurate for our area, and I'm not sure why, so we need to look into that. The outcome of the cameras in the front of the neighborhood is unfortunately not helping us. What happened, has the crime with, yeah, so actually, I'll get back to the cameras in a second, but yeah, Maureen, so over the last year, right, so over the last 12 months, we did have quite a few car break-ins. We had vandalism, someone's car was spray painted, and those are the main property crimes, right? Those are the things that people make me aware of. There could be other crimes too. I don't know of. There were certainly no big like murders or anything like that. But we had quite a few car break-ins, like over a dozen, and some vandalism. So the outcome of the cameras in front of the neighborhood is really shaky, right? It's questionable right now because here's what happens. When there was a car break-in, what you all need to do is call the police, obviously, get a police report number, get the officer's contact information, and then I go out and kind of poll the neighborhood and say, hey, does anybody have Ring camera videos, things like that, send it to me, and then we'll send it to our community officer and the officer that it was reported to. We send that along with the license plate camera from out front, the license plate numbers that are not neighbors that came in during that time, and we send all of that to PG County Police. PG County Police have way bigger fish to fry than our cars getting broken into, and I totally understand that. This is not to trash any police officers. We love our officers, but they have way more important things to worry about than our cars getting broken into. So the unfortunate result of all of the data that we sent them, including ring cameras, license plates from the readers out front, things like that, is that none of the investigations was ever pursued because those detectives are busy with other more important things. So, you know, the cameras out front, I don't think it's helping. We certainly have not stopped anybody with the cameras out front, so I think that's another conversation that we're going to need to have. I'm just, you know, at this point, I think it will depend a lot on whether we join the city of Bowie or not. Chief Neskey did address that specifically about how they handle those investigations differently than PG County. So that would definitely be something to talk to Chief Neskey about when we get him on this next meeting. Any other questions? Righty, so we'll get this posted, and Gene, if you want to adjourn the meeting.
Yes, thanks to everyone for showing up. I know it was a little unconventional, but we did want to get this information into the hands as soon as possible. I will adjourn the meeting at 10:36. And Michelle, if you can stay on for just a second.
How about if we're being recorded, how about if I just call you?
Yep, that's better. Actually, I'll just send you an email.
All right, perfect. All right, guys,
All right.
Thank you. If you have, again, questions, concerns, anything, call, email, text, whatever. I'm here. Okay?
All right,
Thanks
thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.